advocate within you and the advocate within your spiritual business. So today I'm going to talk about the advocate archetype. And the advocate archetype is not an archetype I've ever spoke about before. And it's probably not one it's really I've done much on, if I'm going to be honest. But the advocate archetype is all about, being an advocate for others, for, injustices, for things that where we have, in many ways, you're putting compassion into action. You're doing something from a compassionate place, right? Now, if you just look at even in Caroline Miz's description of the advocate, right? So she describes the advocate as an attorney, a defender, legislator, lobbyist, environmentalist, right? Now, one of the interesting things that we're seeing at the moment is that mainstream media is blocking out a lot of advocacy, right? Because they don't want it's like almost when there's certain things going on, and we've seen this over the last few years where, for example, lawyers trying to take governments and trying to take all sorts of people to court or to challenge new laws that are trying to take away personal freedoms, personal autonomy. We have to just look at even what's went on with the World Health Organization, the United Nations over the last few years, and all the things that have tried to, where they've tried to take basically freedom of speech, take controls away in many areas of our life. And as the advocates, are stepping in and people are trying to stand up, it's like the veil is coming over. They're trying to hide because obviously it's often lawyers and advocates that actually highlight the issues. And the problem today is many people are so busy in their own life and they're so preoccupied by their own anxiety and stress, they don't even see what's going on right in front of them. And if no one is standing up and telling them what's going on, which we're seeing this in a huge way all over the world, and it's interesting. So, for example, I saw a lot of things that was going on in Scotland, right, during a certain period of time over the last few years that other countries were talking about, that most, you would say 95, 98% of the UK did not know what's going on, right? But other countries were documenting it. But there was almost a media kind of, not saying a ban, but it was almost there was a reason why it was not being made public in our country what was really going on. And that is where, a lot of advocates are trying to stand up. They're trying to stand up for social injustice at the moment and trying to be the defender of injustice and things that are going on that sometimes we don't understand. And it's like, so if you think about wars, sometimes people will only see what we're told by the news or what our governments want us to know, because they don't want us to know if they've been up to things that they shouldn't be doing. And that's a good example. And, one of the saddest things, we belong to the UK. And the UK have had a horrendous reputation throughout not just decades, but centuries of doing things to other countries and get involved in things and doing things that are so wrong. But we tend not to find out later on, or if people actually take the time to look, they will discover what really went on. And at the moment, why is the advocate showing up here? Well, first of all, I think many light workers and spiritual workers are, even holistic workers, and I'll explain, are having to be an advocate for their profession at the moment. They're having to be an advocate and defend the actual basic human rights. Because if you class yourself, for example, right, you might not see it this way, but this is the way I see it. If you, for example, actually, if you put yourself out as a holistic practitioner, you are signing up to say that you believe in holistic, that an individual having choice of holistic well-being, and you believe in the principles of holistic medicine and holistic well-being. Now, when you believe in that, you believe that an individual has the right to choose that they have a holistic approach to life. But one of the things that a lot of us who've been in the industry or have bought from the industry for a long, long time are aware of is how many times, for example, there's been legislation tried to stop certain types of holistic well-being for so many reasons. And if you look at a large industry, all I'm going to say is, all I'm going to use the word is a large industry that most of our doctors use and our hospitals use. That's all I'm going to say. That they don't want holistic well-being to succeed, because that means their profits are down. Right? Okay, so we have to be an advocate for also what we practice. If you genuinely are in your work for ethical reasons and you're in alignment, you believe what you are practicing, right? And it's the same with the spiritual sector. We're seeing huge censorship issues. I've been a victim, just like so many people have been a victim of all sorts of things where I had, for example, last year and the year before, I had certain words, particularly spiritual words, actually on YouTube, the weirdest thing, that the music would play or it would be dubbed and certain words would be cancelled out, right? And I know that there's a lot of spiritual, holistic of my followers who are awake and understand what's going on in their own other platforms, so they know the whole scenario that's going on. But there's still a lot of people who only know the scratching the surface with this, and they don't realise what's going on. So a lot of us are having to be an advocate, but it's a fine line between being an advocate for and being a defender for example, even like human rights and things, than actually then just doing it to only to do it to make money. And there's been a lot of huge topics, and I see a lot of division and a lot of divisiveness going on, and we can all do it to different degrees. We maybe not mean it when we're triggered and we're trying to help people, we're trying to get people to wake up, to see the bigger picture. I mean, we've seen a lot of things went on the last few years that people are now just starting to wake up. They couldn't see it. And it can be very hard, but there's a lot of divisiveness at the moment where people are acting as if they are activists and they're lobbyists in the holistic and spiritual sector, where it's actually becoming divisive. It's about them trying to control their own wounding, their own fears, even neuroticism, being neurotic is coming up to the surface, right? So one of the things we've got to understand is we all have, if we have certain tendencies towards certain things, right, certain things come up. So being an advocate, like I've had to work on being a bit of a rescue through my life, right? And a bit of caregiver, that's something. So it's easy for me to want to get into rescue mode, right? But as I've worked on myself, that I've been able to detach from a lot of things that I couldn't have before. Because the more I become more, no matter what I'm saying, I'm being able to detach myself. I'm not saying I've definitely not got it perfect. I'm not saying that at all. But it's about us being able to advocate for certain things from a point of compassion, but of objectivity, right? Now, I'm just going to read what the advocate means in relation to what Caroline Miss fully describes, and then I'll go in a little bit more why I think this is showing up today. So The advocate embodies a lifelong devotion to championing the rights of others and a passion to transform social justices, right? Now, that is something that it's almost like that archetype is strong at the moment, and we need those people. We need those people so much, because it's like, I'm not saying the odds have been stacked against us, because there's always more of us than the people that are implementing these social injustices and the confusion. There is always far more of us. Unfortunately, in society, and I've saw this was a shocker for me, was over the last few years how complacent people are and how people just keep thinking someone else is going to do it. And almost like this, it's not my problem. It's not my monkey. I'm not getting involved with it, but it is a monkey, because it's happening to also our people, our children. Things over the last few years, I was very disturbed about things to do with children and the elderly, how much the people of society that we're supposed to advocate for, the vulnerable members of society that cannot speak for themselves, right? How there was a lot of cowardness come in where people were frightened to speak up, right? So we need the advocate energy within ourselves, but it's also being an advocate for ourselves, right? We have to be an advocate and defend ourselves. That has to be there, that energy has to be there to be able to defend others, right? Dedicated to inspiring the empowerment of groups or causes. That's so important. So the advocate is not just about, us thinking about just, defending. It is all about empowerment. And at an individual level and a collective, that is one of the biggest things that many people are struggling with. And if you look at most forms of holistic and spiritual well-being, what we're really doing on some level, right? There's different degrees to it, but we're trying to empower others. It's never about you doing the healing. If you think you're doing the healing, there's something wrong, no matter even if you are a healer, it's about the person's healing process, whatever they get activating something, you're supporting it, right? But it's always about helping the person become a more empowered individual and to do what's right for them, right? The shadow advocate manifests in false or negative causes, right? Causes that are not of the light, that are not for the better of man. Now, the problem when we are advocating for one group's right, this is so important to understand. When you're advocating for one group's right, you have to be wise enough to make sure that you're also advocating for other people's rights, right? And what we've seen over the last few years is that a lot of psychological manipulation in society and political manipulation, religious manipulation, all sorts of types of manipulation where they're putting out causes for vulnerable groups and minority groups, but the tactics behind it are it's almost like there's a falseness to it, because they are implying they are there to try and stand up for these minority groups, when actually it's not. They're using it as a divisiveness to divide from one group from other groups, or they're making out one group is more important than the collective, right? Now that's what you call real divisiveness, and that there's been a lot of that going on. But often the problem is, as at a human level, sometimes we all can have a knee-jerk reaction. We see a clip of something, for example, online, and we're implied that this group of minority are getting harassed, bullied, all sorts of maybe violence, right? But we're maybe not seeing the bigger picture. And it's what they also do sometimes is say it's this other group that's doing that. Now, that's divisiveness often. There's often the devices, because what the manipulation is about is then showing you one side of the story, but not showing you the other side, so that you will focus on that one side, right? And be then not just about empowering that side, but also about what's the word? Annihilate. Annihilate. I can't say the word. Is it basically getting rid of, or you want to destroy that other group, right? Now, this is when it's really, really important. And even it's easy for us as light workers when we're very emotional, we're very empathetic. There's things you might say you don't agree with, and you maybe feel things are not quite right. But when you start or are saying to people, you're this, you're that, you're this, I'm right, you're wrong, we have to, really, really be careful about this, because this is where in our desire and in our advocacy, in our mission of advocating for a group, we have to be very careful that we were not trying to annihilate another group people, right? Because the ego comes in all sorts of shapes and sizes. And what we've got to understand, part of the awakening process is this moving and always seeing the light, right? But if we have to, of course, be objective. We have to have an ability to have discernment, right? And that's one of the biggest things that we're all getting tested on, is discernment and spiritual discernment. But that can come in all sorts of ways. And just because we see something slightly different from somebody, it's like, I know a lot of people have certain opinions about what people should be sharing online and what they shouldn't be, and have views of what someone is and what they isn't. I'm a bit of a believer that the message is more important than who the messenger is in some instances, right? And I'm not someone that I've been one of these people. I've never been like, how people are groupies. I've never been a groupie to anybody. I don't know why. I feel obviously I'm one of those people that often through my life I've just felt so I'm not saying I felt so different, but it's almost like I didn't hardly related to most things. And I found a disconnection with so many people and so many things, that I never ever got the celebrity thing, the following the celebrity things, because I could see that, a lot of it was marketed, and you would never really know who that person was, not what the papers told you or what anybody else told you, because that's just a story. But I never really got into that. And I've never been someone that ever just has followed only one person's teachings. Never been into that. I've always liked to have a holistic perspective and do what feels right for me. But I know there is some people in the spiritual community that are concerned that people are going to be people's groupies, and just because they say some things and they believe those things, and maybe those things are truth, that then they're going to be suddenly believe everything they tell. I don't, that's not how I view things. But then I can understand why that may be the case for some people. So there's a lot going on at the moment where people are telling people who they shouldn't and shouldn't follow, who they shouldn't stand up for. We're seeing this a lot with the all the things to do with wars. And this what's right, you're wrong kind of element. And of course, we can all have strong opinions, and sometimes we can see things and we can get information that people are not seeing. They're not seeing the bigger picture. But on a holistic and spiritual perspective, the whole point that we're here is to be able to stand up and be able to be an advocate for people that need to be advocated for. At the end of the day, it's about advocating and being able to support and being able to advocate. We all have gifts and skills, and of course, every single one of us will have a different niche, a different audience who we're here to advocate for, right? Now, many of my work is advocating for highly awakened light workers that are the way showers, the people that are ahead of most, even ahead in many ways and more awakened than a lot of other healers and therapists. Part of my role is that's one side of my business where I'm helping people who are ahead of the game and who are often very psychic or very intuitive or have done lots of work. So and they're dealing with a lot of challenging things because people can't see things that they can see. So they're very isolated, very alone. So my role in many ways has been an advocate for them, the people that are leading the way, the people that are the people that can see things that many other people can't see. And they're on a very lonely, very hard road. And I understand that because there's things that's been part of my life. So part of our role has always been an advocate for our clients, advocate for ourselves, for our work, for our clients. But we have to be very careful when, even when advocating for our clients or advocating our work, that we're not also doing things in a very manipulative way or doing it just for money. A really soul-aligned business advocates from the heart. And one example has been when we've seen this through the pandemic. I remember someone that I know, I mean, and she's a lovely woman who was a holistic practitioner, but was posting everything that was not holistic and had everything that went against everything that a holistic practitioner teachings and ethics would be based on. What she was sharing, her personal posts and even her business post, was totally the opposite. And there is an example where someone is in misalignment with the business and they're often doing something just to make, they actually just see it as a way of making money. Some people just don't have the awareness to see that, right? So advocacy is part of being aligned with something, but we have to be careful that in advocacy, and in that defending one, that we are not actually bullying or being the aggressor, right? Real aggressor to the other parties, right? And that's so important. So if you would love to, learn more about archetypes and even inner child work and get access to a plethora of resources and tools that could really help you as a light worker to become more empowered, to work on different elements that need worked on in your life and in your business, check out the Light Workers portal. It is packed with so many of my courses that are normally bought standalone. You can actually access many of these courses, dip in and out what you want for a month, for a low-cost monthly membership. So the gold or the quantum level is the recommended one. The silver has, is it the silver or is it the crystal? That one, I've got two different types of memberships. The lower cost one is just the meditation, so I would recommend the gold. The gold's the key one, or taking it up a level and go to the quantum level, because that just takes things to a whole new level. Anyway, enjoy your day. Please like, follow, subscribe and share if you find any of my videos helpful. Bye-bye for now.